Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
It's March Mania at Sports Interaction. NHL, NBA, March Madness, MLB, and so much more. It's bananas. Play Pinata Picks and Minute Madness, exclusive games with insane odds you can't play anywhere else. Make your next bet with Sports Interaction. Download the app using the QR code you see at the bottom of the screen or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 and older, please play responsibly. Armaan, welcome to Game Over Toronto. Take a look. I've been hiding the camera from you. Look what I have on right now.
Oh shit! What did you get
How great does that jersey look, huh?
Is that a Nylander one? 88?
Yeah, it's a Nylander one.
Oh,
Looks
that's
pretty
a
good,
beauty.
eh? Looks pretty good.
Where did you get it? Did you get it when you went to the game?
Yeah. So my beautiful
Nice.
girlfriend, shout out to Ash. She's asleep right now. Or, well, she's driving home, sorry. But she surprised me with Leafs tickets for our 8-year anniversary. So shout out to you. I love you. But yeah.
And also, Rob went to that game. Shout out.
Exactly. I got to see Rob too at the game. He had
Yeah.
a fantastic jersey. Like, actually, they should make that Pride, like,
The Pride
rainbow on the
it is
numbers.
beautiful.
So good. If you guys haven't
I
checked that
wonder how
out,
long it took him to make that.
a long time. He mentioned it. It took him a
It
while.
looked really nice. Like,
But if you haven't,
professionally done.
exactly. If you haven't had a look, take a look at Robert's Twitter. It looked phenomenal. Even better in person. But okay, we had a game on our hands. All right, let's get to the actual topic at hand. The Leafs played against the Boston Bruins in a game where we were looking to clinch home ice advantage. We were all tied up, or we had the lead into the third, going into the third, and unfortunately they were able to tie it up. Went to OT and we lost it in OT. Now,
Great game though.
it was a great game. And unfortunate we couldn't get the 2 points out. But the one positive is tonight on the show, we're going to have Pete Blackburn from Valley Sports. Pete, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated. Glad that it's skewed in my favor tonight. I appreciate it.
I mean, when is it not this season with the
Yeah,
Bruins?
it's a good point. It's a good point.
Have you gotten like bored of covering the Bruins at all with how much they've been winning?
No, especially not like, during the middle of the season, you're like, you're waiting for them to kind of hit that rough spot. But now in the very end, when, the record's in sight,
Yeah.
definitely not bored. Definitely trying to savor it as much as I can before in a couple weeks when, it's a hard reset once you get into the playoffs. So trying to savor this as much as I can. And I know that it's going to be extremely stressful in a couple weeks. So, vibes are still very, very good.
Yeah, 4 games left, and I think your last opponents are the Devils, Flyers, Capitals, and Canadiens. So I say you do it.
One win away from tying.
One win
the
away
wins
from
record,
tying it.
so,
Yeah.
I
think you're
got
2
it.
wins away from tying the points record as well, the 95-96 Wings. So just a historic season.
Yeah.
From the Bruins.
Yeah.
Were you expecting that going into the season? I know like most of the media, and myself included, and probably most Bruins fans, were sort of putting the Bruins in that 3rd or 4th slot in the Atlantic, battling it out with the Panthers. Were you always kind of gung-ho about the team?
No, definitely not. I mean, like they had, you hadn't seen David Krejci in a year, and Bergeron was tentative about coming back. You didn't know what you were going to get from some of these guys. They started the season with Marchand and McAvoy on the IR, and so like I was just kind of hoping that they would tread water until those guys came back, and then they'd be in decent enough shape. I didn't buy the idea that like suddenly they were going to suck this year.
Yeah.
I think that they got kind of disrespected a little bit by just kind of people doubting what they already had. But I sort of like started to see the light a little bit. I went to opening night, and on opening night in the crowd, as they were introducing the players, I turned to the person that I went with and I was like, I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. And I said that and I would probably say that every single year, just out of pure positivity and manifesting. But like I had been hearing from like a lot of people close to the team that like during preseason, the group had a lot of unbelievably good and positive energy. And it was like very refreshing that was the case, because I think it's no secret that when Bruce Cassidy
Yeah.
was fired, and soon after that, you started hearing that a lot of the guys were not having a great time in that room. They didn't like Bruce Cassidy. So, once the group got together, they were playing for Monty, and they started kind of realizing that the energy was a bit different. I started buying it a lot more knowing that, because I do think it matters a whole lot when guys are having fun every day at the rink. And obviously that only gets you so far. You have to
Yeah.
have talent and play and execute. But I certainly didn't expect that they were going to be like one of the best teams in NHL history, for sure not. But I did buy in hearing some of the stories from the locker room, and sort of that vibe.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to hear those stories considering how good the Bruins were with Cassidy. Like, I was surprised they fired him. It seemed like kind of an out of the blue thing because I think he's a solid coach, but like clearly it was the right move.
Right. I mean, like, from results only, it was shocking. And
Yeah.
I think that they had a weird hiring process too, where they were close to hiring David Quinn, and then they went with Monty, and it was
Yeah.
kind of a mess. It seemed like the team was like a rudderless ship, and they were really relying on Bergeron and Krejci to come back, and they didn't have like a totally secure vision for most of the summer. So the vibes were definitely shaky. But clearly this team has, for all the success that they've had on the ice, and they've been unbelievable, obviously. But like, the vibes all around that team this entire season have been incredible, from the beers at breakfast photo to like the goalie hugs to like all these guys talking about how much they mean to each other, and just kind of seeing how much fun they're having off the ice has been, marks across the board. It's been so much fun.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
and what about like you guys have won like 12 games, or you guys have lost, sorry, 12 games in the entire season, but so I mean you guys are not scared of any team, but playing up against the Leafs, I mean I looked at some of the stats going into the game tonight, right? And the Leafs, despite losing 2 games against you guys, and now the third game, we were pretty competitive. I feel like the shot attempts were sitting at 53% before this game, and 56.5% of the expected goals on 5-on-5. Even the power plays, like tonight, we were able to restrict the Bruins to in one power play to no shots on goal, right? Do you guys like, from watching the games, is there a different feeling when you're playing against the Leafs versus any other team? Is it a competitive game that you kind of look at, or do you guys just not care about the Leafs? It's just, it's
I
not a
mean, no,
thought.
no. I mean, like, always care about the Leafs, and Toronto will always scream at me rent free, and I love making fun of the Leafs, but like, and so like, there's always like a personal investment when it comes to that. Whenever they're on the schedule, no matter what the season is, no matter what the records are, no matter any sort of context there.
Uh-huh.
I will say, like, I think that this is the best Leafs team that I can remember in recent memory, and I'm certainly like not writing them off whatsoever, but it does make me feel very, very glad that the Bruins are like the best team that I've ever seen in my entire life,
Yeah.
in a year where the Leafs are legitimately a threat, and legitimately pretty scary in a Eastern Conference that is very scary. Like, I think the Leafs can hold their own with anybody. Like, they're not a flawless team, but this is as good and as responsible a Leafs team I think that, like, I can remember seeing.
Yeah, and this was like one of the most competitive games. It didn't start out that way though. Like, I thought the Bruins dominated the first like 7 or 8 minutes of this game. It looked like the Leafs were completely behind throughout that first 7 and 8 minutes. I think our first shot was like a perimeter shot right at the 7 minute mark,
Yep.
which obviously isn't ideal. The Leafs limited the Bruins' chances relatively well, even though they were a bit scrambly. I thought they were decent in terms of defensive structure, but yeah, like it was the Bruins came out strong, and yeah, the Leafs were just playing behind, but once that second period hit,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think the
for
Leafs
sure.
kind of woke up.
Yeah, for sure. And I do I do some sports betting, and I threw a three-way parlay tonight, and I had a first period goal, a Pasternak goal, and a Bruins win. And so I knew it. I knew it as soon as there was no goal scored in the first period. I was like, Pasternak's going to score. He's going to win. You always miss one leg of a parlay. You either miss one leg of a parlay, you miss all of them, and you look like an idiot either way. So I was very disappointed that they had such a dominant first period and didn't come away with anything. But I guess I'll take 2 of the 3. But yeah, I mean, they looked really good in the first period, and then kind of fell flat in the second. And the way that this team has gone, though, is like even if they fall down in a game and they're not playing their best hockey and they don't play a full 60 minutes, they're so good that they're so good and they're so resilient that you can't ever count them out. So when they tied the game in the third period, it wasn't surprising. And it felt like momentum was kind of shifting in that direction until the close call on the penalty in overtime with the face-off violation. I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my God, they had all the momentum. And now all of a sudden they're going to throw it the entire opposite way for no reason. Thank God they got that call right. And I think the right team won, but it was quite scary few minutes for me.
Yeah. We have some people in the chat that are very angry about that, Leafs fans. And I think that
what are you angry about? It was the right call.
I think Leafs fans, everyone's pissed off if it goes against us.
It's Leafs losing to Boston on a call that called back. But
it was the right call.
It was the right call, and I 100% agree it's the right call. And at the end of the day, that's what you want out of the reffing. Right. I think what mainly the people are mad about is the fact that they reviewed it or they got influenced by the arena, which is a possibility, of course, but like it's the right call. Like I can't say anything about that. Like
I always wonder about that when it's like the non-reviewable calls, but the refs all get together and they talk about it, and then they like magically come away with the right ruling. It's like, well, I would like to know what was discussed there,
right? Because you discussed it before to get the first call. Like they got together and were like, yeah, the hand pass, and then the replay gets shown on the Jumbotron, you hear all the boos and stuff, and it could influence them, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It is weird. It was a weird play because they both kind of put their hands on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they just did offsetting penalties as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the Bruins broadcast, you will not be shocked to hear that Jack Edwards was furious
that
Kampf didn't get the penalty after that. He spent like 30 seconds just screaming his name, being like, "Where's the penalty?" So
yeah. I mean,
a Leafs fan, it could have been worse. You could have got the penalty on Kampf. So
I saw the Jack Edwards clip of the first hooking call, which was also kind of like shaky, but it was hilarious because I think he insinuated that like Matthews has a bias towards him, but Matthews like barely gets any calls against him.
He's a psycho.
Do you like Jack Edwards as a Bruins fan?
I think that he's entertaining. And I do think that he's lost his fastball on the broadcast a little bit over the past like couple of years. Where like at the top of his game, he was very, very entertaining and a madman always, but like in a way that like I would much rather have a madman who's like an obvious homer. Like I don't care if the announcer's a homer. Like hometown announcers, 90% of the time they are homers. They're appealing to a certain fan base, and that's kind of what you want. And I'd much rather have that than the guy who's like listening to paint dry for 60 minutes. So I mean, Jack Edwards, I think he is what he is. He's entertaining. He has lost his fastball a little bit over the past couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stand him, but understandably so. I have very bad memories from Jack Edwards calls.
Yes, of course.
Just the PTSD running back.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do it anymore.
On that OT though, right before that as well, the Bruins had a really, really good chance. I believe it was Marchand
so snake bitten.
Yeah, but that pass that went from I believe it was from Marchand to Bergeron, and the Bergeron passed behind Samsonov, and Samsonov saw the puck was there, but I guess he didn't realize that Bergeron was at the side and had the puck. They easily could have won it right then and there if Riley didn't take that hook in to stop that play, right? That was a close call.
Game-saving penalty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it, but Marchand is extremely snake bitten right now. I think I want to say, 14 games now without a goal.
Yeah.
Like he's still productive.
Yeah, they
But
said he had 1 in 18, I think,
yeah,
in the broadcast,
yeah,
which is
sounds about
insane
right.
considering how
He's
talented he is.
still been productive and like, is not like a shell of himself out there by any means, but is I think there's something that's off, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an injury or something, but it is something that's like a little off, and he's not converting on chances that he otherwise would. He had like a clear breakaway last game where there was nobody even close to him, and it looked like he had a really good opportunity, and he kind of just like he healed it, and it wasn't even a legitimate chance. So yeah, I think something's up there, but hopefully better by the postseason, and if not, he's been finding other ways to contribute, so not the worst thing in the world, I guess.
Yeah, the Bruins
Yeah,
were also without Krejci, Hall, and Foligno, and then afterwards McAvoy in that second period,
yeah,
he took that
didn't
hit from
return.
Bergeron as well,
Yeah,
right? And he
yeah. Thank
was
God they announced that it was just precautionary.
Oh, okay, that's good.
okay.
That they
Yeah,
held McAvoy out, which has happened a few times with a couple different guys in the past couple weeks, where something weird happens and they just pull them, and you can understand it this close to the playoffs, but God, it gives me a heart attack every time when they
yeah,
quickly announce that somebody's not coming back to a game
yeah,
after like an awkward thing, and you have to wait like an hour to find out whether it's a legitimate thing or just precautionary. So they've been able to avoid anything uh, catastrophic to this point, and it does sound like Taylor Hall is like very
very
close to
close to
coming
being back.
back. Yeah,
Mhm.
There was a consideration that he would be back this game as well.
yeah, he's
That's
skating and like full contact jerseys, and it's been rumored that he's been like ready to come back for a little bit, and so I think that they might have to move some things around to actually make it work with the salary cap, but I think
yeah,
that they may be able to slide Foligno to LTIR and then get him in the lineup. So we'll see. I don't
yeah,
know.
they'll make it work.
Yeah, I was
The first game
surprised though.
back for Ryan O'Reilly as well. He hasn't
Yeah,
played since March 4th, and I thought he was excellent today. Not productive, but he was winning puck battles left and right, especially forechecking. I really liked his game.
I didn't notice him too much. The one guy that I noticed a ton tonight was Zach Aston Reese. I
yes,
thought that fourth
yes.
line was awesome. Zach Aston Reese was great. Yeah, I thought the Bruins, for especially in the middle part of the game, like really, really sloppy with those cross ice passes, and the Leafs were all over them just in
Mhm.
terms of jumping in front of those. And Zach Aston Reese, I mean, I love that guy's game. I always have. He's a great defensive forward and plays uh like real physical, plays real smart, and tonight obviously was very productive, and that line got on the board and was really good on the forecheck and full 200-foot game the entire way through. I thought he was the best player on the Leaf side.
Yeah, 100%. And that's only the second game in a row that that fourth line has been together with Lafferty on that line. And Lafferty has sort of struggled, in my opinion, mightily on this roster since the trade deadline, up until he got put on a line with Kempf and Zach Aston Reese. And in the two games they've played, very small sample size, of course, they have dominated their minutes, like
And I,
really done well for a fourth line.
I could be wrong, but I believe I saw they led Toronto in 5-on-5 ice time in this game. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
not bad
surprised.
for a
They're
fourth line.
Yeah, they're like Keefe is putting a lot of trust in them, and it looks like Lafferty's found his role on that line. It looks like Zach Aston Reese has been an absolute like he got 2 goals in the Columbus game 2 days
Yep.
ago as well. Like he's finding his rhythm offensively at the perfect time. Uh, right heading into playoffs, and he's going to be a pretty big part. I know a lot of people on the Leafs, like in the Leafs fandom, were considering, if Matthew Nyes comes in to this roster after the Frozen Four is done. And by the way, he won today as well, so he's going to be playing Saturday. But if he comes in, who comes out? And a lot of people were saying Zach Aston Reese, and I don't think that's true. I don't think anyone comes out for
Especially in
Nyes
the
now.
playoffs.
Yeah,
Like
like I
in
think.
in
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
playoffs, if you can have one of those lines that's like can neutralize top opponents and just kind of get you the matchups that you want, especially you know in a Stanley Cup run, you kind of need that. Like I've always said that the most important thing that like really separates a contender from a pretender is the third line, because that's typically where you get that grind line, the checking line that you throw out there to neutralize opponents. And if you can win those battles, chances are you're going to get the matchups that you want, and you're going to win the rest of the game in those matchups. So we saw it with like the Lightning when they won back to back. Like that third line that they had was disgusting.
It's
Not
so
only
good.
in terms of being able to neutralize top talent, but like they were productive themselves. So like that's an embarrassment of riches. So like that's kind of what I saw from that fourth line on the Leafs is that, you know, they were great defensively and on the forecheck, but they also produced and won that battle. So if that's something that you can keep together and use to your advantage in the playoffs, it's absolutely not something that you tinker with.
Yeah, and it's so much more important. Sorry, Harnish, one second. It's so much more important in an away game as well when you know, you can't play the matchup. You can't put your, you know, lineup after their line. So you kind of have to trust that this guy can take a D zone you know, start and transition it into the offensive zone against their top line, because that's what's going to happen. You know, they're going to play their top line against your fourth line, especially in an offensive zone draw. So having that trust in your fourth and third line, or your bottom six in general, is very important for this team. And it's something that I think they have lacked drastically in previous playoff runs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a large portion of that has to do with the fact that Camp as well, like this whole line has been great, but Camp playing that center, he is winning a lot of those faceoffs. He has like 60% win rate in the last game against Columbus, right? And Czar, he's been producing great offensively, but Czar and Laugh, they're both great big bodies. Like they throw a lot of hits. They're both leading the Leafs in the forwards in terms of hits landed. And even today you saw Lafferty throw out against exactly Greer, no, it was Grizzly. I think he hit Grizzly, and then Greer was the one
Grizzly
that
first, and then Greer came to the defense, and they had
had
a little. I don't think Lafferty even threw a punch though. He got the takedown, to be fair, but
and like to his credit, he threw the gloves down immediately. And so like I you know, I respect that. Like it wasn't a bad hit. So like I never I hate when guys like have to answer for good hits and all that, but like, you know, it's nice when a guy does that and is like, all right, let's
no hesitation.
Let's go.
Yeah. And, you know, like that's something that the Leafs have lacked a lot again in previous teams. Like we haven't had a ton of fighters. We've had some big players, and obviously like Wayne Simmons is a fighter and stood up, and even like, but like, you know, we had guys like Jason Spezza throwing the gloves down in the playoffs, you know, and you don't like Spezza's a good player. He was a productive player for us. So you don't want him be the one to, you know, take those fights on. But
he's also like 100 years old. You know? If he's your enforcer, it's
yeah, exactly. And even Zimmer is like, he's getting old and he's not, you know, necessarily an NHL player anymore. So it's nice to have guys like Luke Shen as well throwing the body. Nola Chari was excellent today as well, throwing the body. I don't know how many hits he had by the end of it, but I'm pretty sure it was a lot.
So devastated at that O'Reilly trade at the deadline. One, because, you know, Ryan O'Reilly's a great player. Conn Smythe, I know it very well, unfortunately. You know, I saw what he did to the Bruins. So like when they went out and got him, I thought it was very painful, but it was like a little extra salt on the wound that Nola Chari was there as well too. Because like, you know, being a Bruins guy, like I know what that guy means to the bottom six. He's not like, numbers aren't going to jump off the page, but like he's a very productive bottom six guy and sort of the underrated pickup that will fly under the radar, but make a difference when it comes to a deep Stanley Cup run. So that one hurt me a little bit.
Yeah, 13 minutes, he had 7 hits. So he was throwing the body around. And, you know, like obviously hits aren't everything. And, you know, they usually mean that you just don't have the puck. But it wears down the opponent. You know, it's hard to play against. And that's something that the Leafs have been struggling with recently and trying to find their rhythm of getting guys who are hard to play against but still drive play forward, because that's not
7-game
common.
series.
Yeah, exactly.
Being hard to play against matters.
And you're going up against the Lightning, and that's been known since October pretty much. Like I think the Bruins have been the first in Atlantic for 99% of the season pretty much. So we've known this was going to be the matchup, and the Lightning, they are hard to play against. Maybe not against the Islanders right now,
to punch them in the mouth to give yourself a shot to win in a 7-game series. You have to like hold your own physically, because that is a physical team. They've always been a physical team, and they prioritize that being hard to play against.
And the good news
speaking
is,
of them, the New York Islanders won today, so they beat them 6-1. So the Leafs clinch home ice on that. But Do you guys? So I think with the lineup that we have today, right? I think this is going to be our core guys going forward, especially into the playoffs. I don't see anyone directly being swapped out, and unless
I agree.
some injury happens. But do you think there's any tinkering around with the lineup specifically that Keith maybe has to play?
I think the first line can be tinkered with,
Uh-huh.
like that Bunting Matthews Yarncroke line. I think it worked against Columbus, but I think once you put it up against like such a good defensive team like the Bruins are, I don't think they could generate a ton, if I'm being honest. And having Nylander, Tavares, and Marner is very nice, but knowing what you have with Matthews and Nylander, or Matthews and Marner, and
Mhm.
then knowing what you have with Tavares and Nylander, or Tavares and Marner, like they both work. So I'd rather do that and have those three lines, or the top six, be both firing on all cylinders, rather than have the potential for one line to be, shut down and then the others just not produce. But, that's just my opinion. That's really the only change I'd make.
Especially don't want like the one line that's getting shut down to involve your best goal scorer. Like that's
I agree.
probably not what you want. And so yeah, I mean, I don't. You guys know better than I do in terms of that lineup on a night in night out basis. But like, there's enough to spread around there. That's why I really like the O'Reilly acquisition, because it gives them
Yeah.
an infinite more amount of like options, especially in the playoffs, where you can mix and match. You can play the matchups to who your opponent is, and sort of give your team a bunch of different looks. And so like I think that's, especially when you have, I don't know how much like line juggling there's been for you guys over the past couple months or month and a half, but like
Quite a bit.
because that matchup has been locked in for quite some time, you have that luxury to say, we'll find out what we got and let these guys play with each other in a various, a bunch of different combinations, and see what works, see what doesn't, so that during the playoffs we don't have to find out. We'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the Leafs are going to be playing against the Lightning soon too. I believe it's going to be on the
It's the second last game of the season, isn't
yeah,
it?
on the 11th. It's not
I
most
think a
likely
lot
there's
of
a
people
bunch of
will
people are
be.
going to be iced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
because
is
I mean, we
unfortunate.
both know, yeah,
Want to
there's no
see
home
it.
ice, no home ice advantage to play for them anymore. So
Yeah, yeah. But it
Yeah,
would be
there's
fun to
literally
see them
nothing
go
to
at
play
it.
for.
Yeah, like look at today
what's your
against.
opinion of resting the Bruins right now while the record's
Well, I mean,
in
yeah,
contention?
I mean, obviously, Stanley Cup should take priority, and so like
Yeah,
you don't want to be reckless, and like that's the once guys sort of like the McAvoy thing, they're like, okay, all right,
Yeah,
you're out.
yeah,
Precautionary, it doesn't matter. Take a seat. But like we have seen a shift over the past couple of weeks where, prior to that, they weren't really talking about the record and what it meant to them. There's all right, we're just focusing on the game that's in front of us, and over the past couple of weeks that shifted a little bit, where they have acknowledged, like, we've talked about it, it is something that we want, and like it would mean a lot to us as a group. Like obviously the Stanley Cup is still number one on the docket here, but like would be pretty cool to say that you were the best team in the history of the NHL's regular season. So there is like an acknowledgement that it's something that they're playing for right now, and so I honestly think that that's a good thing. Like it's a good thing no matter what to be able to play for that, but it's a good thing because you saw what happened with the Lightning like 3 or 4 years ago, when they had
yeah,
an unbelievable regular season, but like over the past like or the last 2 months of the season, really had nothing to play for, and they weren't like really approaching any like meaningful records. Like they were a great team and finished with like a ton of points, but like they weren't really like approaching best team ever. And so like the final few weeks of the season just kind of felt like they were playing at half speed. And then you carry that into the playoffs and you get punched in the face and they lose 4 straight games. So the fact that they've kind of been playing at competitive speed and not taking their foot off the gas, and have remained engaged with something to play for, I think has been very useful and very helpful.
yeah, and it was
yeah,
interesting to see even tonight because I feel like I thought in my head I thought that both teams would be a little skittish and not trying to play too hard, right? Because again, they don't have too much to play for at this point. But it really seemed like they were going at it, like especially like the Shen and Hathaway. I believe he had like they were chirping back and forth with each other quite a bit.
It was a playoff game. Like,
Yeah.
it felt so much like a playoff game.
Especially after the Bruins tied it. It was loud. Like it felt like a playoff atmosphere for sure.
That crowd lit up. It was fantastic to hear, and all I could imagine was how great would this be playing off against them in another playoff series, right?
Second round.
Exactly.
Great as it goes.
How crazy would it be? The atmosphere is insane.
That would be the best if the Leafs finally win a round, then catch the Bruins in the second round,
and then beat the Bruins in the second round.
The inescapable boogeyman just waiting for them on the other side of the door.
I saw a hilarious stat on the Sportsnet broadcast, and it was like the Red Sox already have as many home losses as the Bruins this season.
That's unbelievable.
And it's incredible. I'm amazed by that. But yeah,
that's insane.
Do you put any stock to like the President's Trophy curse, or just putting that behind you in the blinkers?
No, I mean, like it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup, regardless of what seed you've got. Even if it's like the number one seed, like in any division or whatever, like it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup. So like, it doesn't shock me. Like once, like I said, like once the playoffs start, it's a full reset, regardless if you were the best team in the regular season. I don't buy into a curse, but like I obviously, you recognize that best regular season team doesn't really mean anything either.
Yeah. You just saw that with the Lightning like 3 years ago as well. So yeah.
And the Panthers last season, like,
exactly.
It's you can outscore your problems in the regular season, but once the playoffs hit, it's a completely different beast. It's a completely different game. So, I the thing that does give me confidence is that like this Bruins team is built not only to be a regular season team, but be a successful team in the playoffs. And that's why I love their deadline is they add a lot more snarl, a lot more depth. Like they built this to sustain through the playoffs.
Yeah. They had one of the best deadlines out of any team, I think. Like, I think the Rangers also had a great deadline, but
you may look back with hindsight and say that the Taylor Hall injury, for as much of a bummer as it was a blessing in disguise, because that's why they went out and got Tyler Bertuzzi. Yeah. They went out, they were able to LTIR him. They went out and got Tyler Bertuzzi because they weren't sure if that knee injury was going to keep him out for the entirety of the regular season and the playoffs. And then they were like, they identified a guy who had a similar makeup to Taylor Hall. And we're like, we can just plug this guy in if he's gone because he's available. And so they went out and got him. Turned out that Taylor Hall's injury wasn't as serious as they were fearing. And now you've got both of them. So it's a really good position to be in. I love the work that they did. I've been very critical of Don Sweeney and Cam Neely in years past, but like absolutely fantastic job this season at the deadline.
Like talk about Boston identity and Tyler Bertuzzi and Garnet Hathaway. Like they're just Boston. Like the shittiest people
Garnet
to play
Hathaway's
against.
a New England guy, so like he was
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean they identified needs, not necessarily like pressing needs, but guys who would fit in and contribute immediately, and they've all been very good so far. So full marks to the front office.
All of the wild card two team potentials, like the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Panthers. Who do you least want to face in the first round?
I'd probably say the Islanders, just based off solely off the fact that they present the biggest opportunity to get goalied. And
Sorokin is just incredible, and you don't need a goalie to steal too many games before you find yourself out of the
like
playoffs.
two games at the front of a series, instilling some doubt in that team like could be really tough. But none of those three teams really scare me. I think those are very flawed teams, all three of them. But if I had to pick one, like the Islanders and Sorokin present, I think the most like not sure I want that.
I will hold you to that when the Bruins get swept in the first round.
So if they get swept in the first round, you will never hear from me again.
Yeah.
Well,
that'll be it for me.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, the playoffs are rolling up, and we talked a little bit about Matthew Nyes, but let's dive into that a little bit more, because he played up today, the University of Minnesota played today against Boston University, another another team from there, and they won.
At least Minnesota won. Yeah,
I know,
6-2.
that's the two things I had going into this game. I was like, all right, let's talk about the fact that we beat Boston in with Matthew Nyes, beat him in the NHL today too, and I was looking at it, and like if the Leafs won today, they would have, with 2 wins, they would have gotten 16 or 17% of the Bruins losses, which is crazy considering it's just 2 wins.
I mean, they've barely.
I know.
It's
Insanity.
Ottawa has 2 wins against the Bruins somehow.
Isn't
out
it
of all the teams?
Isn't it fucking insane?
Ottawa and Florida, I think, also has 2 wins against the Bruins, which is
crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I want to say Ottawa gave them their first loss of the season, and they absolutely kicked the shit out of them too. Like, it was a tough game early on. But the one loss to the Leafs this year, right?
Yeah, one loss. We're 1-2-1 against you, and you're 3-1.
And that one came the day after the Mitchell Miller signing, so the vibes were off.
Yeah,
that week.
I remember that.
I would have been
that to trash.
I would have been so mad if we lost that game.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah.
Even
Bruins
like,
had to lose.
when that happened, I was like, oh, they're gonna lose tomorrow for sure. Like,
deservedly so.
Like players are in the locker room being like, why did you do that? And throwing the vibes off completely. I was like, they're gonna lose this for sure.
Because
the fact that the players came out and were like, "What the fuck?"
Exactly, because that was all the questions that were asked about.
Nobody's either. Like Patrice Bergeron was like, "I don't know about this one, guys."
Yeah,
but it speaks to the culture in the room as well. Like that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, Matthew Nyes, we'll talk about him. He's this is the first time that Minnesota is going to the championship in 20 years. So it's been quite a while. And they're going to be playing against the winner of Michigan and
She'll probably be Michigan.
Yeah, probably. On this Saturday, Matthew Nyes, he got 1 assist today, and Mike Castor,
Kester,
exactly, got a goal and an assist.
Prospect,
another prospect. He's our 2019 fifth, right, or fourth?
I want to say 2019 fifth.
I think so. Yeah, somewhere there. But yeah, great to see nonetheless. Another Leaf prospect, getting some points out there, eh?
Yeah, and a nice defensive prospect, because we don't have a ton of those anymore.
Yeah.
After Sandin and Liljegren kind of graduated and Sandin's no longer even on the roster.
Yeah.
We pretty much have like Niemela, Villeneuve, and then a smattering of darts to throw at the dartboard, but probably none of them will stick. But it's nice to get someone who's kind of producing at the NCAA level. He had 27 points, I think, this year, so pretty
speaking
solid.
Of defensive prospects, the BU loss means that Lane Hudson could end up with the Canadians, and God, I love that guy. Got to watch him in the Hockey East, and he was a whole lot of fun. He had both 2 goals, I want to say, in the Hockey East final, one with the overtime winner too. Like, Lane Hudson's a lot of fun. Smaller defensive guy, but man,
it sort of blew my mind that he fell to like the late second round.
Yeah.
I think that was it was last year's.
Yeah. So like
I was hearing a lot of good things from him before the draft.
Pains me that the Canadians get like all my favorite short kings, Cole Caulfield, Lane Hudson, and so like, I mean, under Marty St. Louis is a good place for short kings to thrive, as we've seen with Cole Caulfield. So I'm hoping Lane Hudson will end up playing a couple games with the Canadians this year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We have Zach in the chat saying that had to jump in. The Oilers gave the Bruins their toughest loss. Do you remember?
That's a game over Edmonton host.
Yeah. So. Do you remember what specific game though? This was? Yeah, I can't remember this. Pete, do you have any idea?
I do remember that they lost to him, but I don't fully remember like the details of that game.
it was a 3-2 loss, so it wasn't the toughest loss.
Yeah, was it overtime?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I've been looking up. It said it was a comeback win.
It was a comeback win, which is impressive.
Yeah, they came back from a 2-goal deficit. It was a 2-goal deficit.
That's the first time they lost after leading in the third.
Explains why I blacked that out.
Yeah, I think that's the first time that happened, and I remember that game now.
It's crazy that I can't remember every loss that the Bruins have had this year. How few there have been. But
yeah, you can also almost count them on your hands. At this
Yeah, I
point.
know.
Yeah, well,
I feel like Leaf fans only remember the losses. They've been so jaded.
That's it. It is very funny to like watch from a distance, like just the energy of like Leafs Nation after every single game. It's very hard to get a read on like what the actual thoughts on that team are, because like after a win, everybody's like, "Oh my God,
Like,
Stanley
it's a
Cup!"
wrap. Yeah.
And then like after a loss, like, this is the worst team I've ever seen. No fight in these guys. They suck. And it's like,
Yeah,
I have no idea.
You even
No
seen in some of
idea.
the chat.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, I was
it
just
a
gonna say.
competitive game against the best team in the league that we took the OT, and it was like a playoff game throughout. We played. It was just a great game overall, and then people are like, "We're fucked."
It's
We
like the
can't
same
win.
thing with like Riley, when Riley was on his was on his skid and he was like snake bitten.
Yeah, it was like
They were riling on him, and then the moment he got that
it's
one goal,
expected.
but the moment they got that one goal, the chat was just going crazy. "Oh, Riley's back. We're doing this."
I
The return
can't
of the
blame.
king.
I mean, I'm the same. I can't blame anyone. Like it's just
It
We're
is
reactionary.
what have you
It
done
is
for
what
me
it is.
lately? Kind of.
yeah,
bit.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, the Bruins are who are they playing? Who are they playing next now?
It's a good question. I don't know.
They
They
the
have the
Devils?
Devils, and so
Oh yeah, they have a tough. I think they have a tough they have a back-to-back Devils and I forget.
Flyers.
and the Flyers.
It's Devils,
Okay,
then
not a tough
Flyers, then
back-to-back,
Capitals,
then.
and Canadiens. Yeah, like your last 3 games are against teams that are already
Yeah, and they need
out of the playoffs.
right now
so.
they have you guys have 60 wins, so you need 3 more wins to get the most wins in,
Not 3 more
in
wins.
history, right? Isn't it
No,
62?
no, two more wins. 2 more wins.
62 is tied.
Most points, I want to say.
Yeah. So
I'm saying to
Uh,
get the lead. It's 3 more wins, I believe.
no, no,
For-
2 more wins. They're at 61 now because they just won.
Oh yeah, they just won. God damn it. God damn. Yeah, two more wins. Holy shit, man. This team's gonna get it. It's gonna be crazy. But yeah, and then the Leafs, they're playing up against the Canadiens this Saturday, in a game that means a lot less than the Bruins trying to win and get that record. But
Do you want them to rest now that we've clinched home ice, or are you saying like 4 games left?
you think for me?
We gotta. Yeah, like what do you think?
I think especially with like Ryan O'Reilly coming back, just like as this is like first game back, right? I
Yeah,
think you
definitely
kind of
play
need to have
O'Reilly.
yeah, you need to play him, but you also need to play whoever you want to put on into that third pairing to get
I
some
agree.
chemistry back with them, right? The fourth line, just let them do what they're doing. The thing is, a lot of the times when you rest these players, you'll see that they'll come back a little rusty, they'll miss a step, and against Tampa, you don't really have that luxury, right? If you have a misstep, and let's say if you make a bad play or you have a bad shift and they go up, the margins are so tight, you can't
Yeah, I'd say
can't let
like
that affect you.
rest the elite guys, like
I think in the
won a
last
game, that type of thing.
yeah, I think in
Well,
the
yeah,
last game
the
or
last 2,
the
I
Lightning
think
game,
they
those
should
are the 2 ones.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But,
for the Canadians and the
different
Panthers,
philosophies.
yeah, like you still have some time. Just give them the Canadians and the Panthers game, and then you can rest them for the Lightnings and the Rangers and whatnot.
Yeah, but you never know, man. Sometimes injuries happen. Like look at McAvoy,
McAvoy
today.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
And I would
But I don't think that
cry
I don't think
if
the
we like Matthews goes down playing the fucking Montreal Canadiens in the
yeah. But
fourth
do you
last game
think
of
the Canadians and the Panthers
season.
are going to be playing as rough as like the
Yes,
Bruins did today?
they're playing the Leafs.
Yeah,
They
I
always
know
play
that, but they're not.
Like
I
they
don't
always
think they're
play
going to be
hard.
going too crazy on us. Like
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm worried
The
about it.
Panthers got to play. Like
Yeah, the Panthers have to play. Like
Yeah.
they're competing right now.
Yeah. That's
They're going to
true,
be playing
that's true.
hard. Like it's literally a 1 point difference between being in the playoffs and not right now.
Yeah, between Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and the Panthers.
It's a
Yeah.
competitive last little bit, and the Panthers like clawed their way back.
So
as
would you
well.
want to see our top 4 get rested? Who would you want to see get rested?
Gio, Marner?
Okay, throw the old guy in there.
Yeah, you have to
Save
throw the
some of
old
his
guy in
legs.
there. He's
Yeah.
old. He just played in his 1,100th game.
Yeah.
and he's like
This
the
season.
lead in blocks. Yeah,
like 1,000 games this season.
He's also taken so many damn shot blocks, man. Every time I see him like get a little stung by a shot, I'm like, please don't
He
get
puts
injured,
on
please.
minutes. For like
Yeah.
how old? I think he's 39, 38. I don't even know how old he is.
It's not a light 1,000 games.
Yeah, like
Giordano, like he's logged minutes. He's a workhorse. So
we also have like
39
Tim
years
and
old,
Liljegren,
so
like us. We have
you
other
got a ton of defensive depth.
Yeah.
Like rest Gio, I'd say rest Marner just because he's been logging a shitload of minutes recently as well.
What about Marner? Marner's also been playing a ton of minutes.
That's what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think I said my bad.
No, that's all right.
I was thinking Nylander.
No, Nylander, I don't think you have to rest. And I don't think I like, I want to see him get more into the rhythm. So I don't want to rest him per se. Like I think he's sort of, his game is like, for example, in the goal that they got, the Boston got in the third period, I thought Nylander looked pretty awful on that goal. Like, not to say, like, it was Shen who tried to get it out, and then it was a really good keep at the line. But before that, like 30 seconds before that, Nylander had a pretty good chance to get a breakout, and it was an easy reception up the wall, and it just went by him. And then after that, he just did not have any sort of impact defensively. He was sort of just floating, and I could tell a goal was going to happen when I was looking at Nylander there. Like, I want to see him get more into the playoff rhythm because we've seen him be a playoff beast before. I know he has it in him. A lot of people say he's soft. He is not soft. He knows how to drive a net. So I want to see him get into that rhythm.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd rest Marner and Gio and maybe McCabe because I know he logged heavy minutes in Chicago as well.
What about, are you thinking anything about Matthews? I know he had that wrist injury earlier on, but he's looking good now.
Yeah, he looks fine. I don't know. I like Matthews. I'd say keep him. Maybe rest Tavares.
He had a couple sequences in that third period where he looked really good. Along the wall, like very strong. He's a really good down low player. So like
excellent.
I obviously know he's very good and watched a lot of him, but like there are still those moments and like those players where you can see it like in real time, where they sort of like engage like that next gear. And I saw it a couple times in the third period, and the Bruins are pretty lucky that he didn't come away with anything on some of those chances. Yeah. Like
Matthews, he's excellent every game. And even like defensively, like he rarely puts a misstep in any game, even if he's not producing. He's always working hard in winning puck battles. It's nice to see out of your star forward, that they're not like a Mark Scheifele. Sorry, Winnipeg. Sorry, listen, sorry, Brady, but yeah, Scheifele sucks at defense.
Well, you heard it here. Let's see how the Leafs do against the Canadiens this Saturday. That's going to be at 7 p.m. The game starts, and you'll be able to hear the post-game analysis here on SDPN. Pete, thanks again for joining the show. Give us a shout out, shout yourself out. Tell the people where they can find you.
My writing and video stuff for Bally Sports, so ballysports.com and any of the regional networks. And then if you stadium.com, I think it's stadium.com, the stadium like TV, on there almost every day too. So, that Twitter, just at Pete Blackburn. I'm sure I'll piss you guys off a bunch during the playoffs. So looking forward to it. So, I'm very much ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, we're in playoff mode.
Yeah. Armaan, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Armaan Funthicky. You can find me on Twitter at Armaan Funthicky.
And my name's Harnish. You can find me at Harnish_Patel98 on Twitter. And yeah, tough loss, but we move forward. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Have a great night, everyone.
Peace.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction.